Hello, this is Liam from game-production.com, Game Production Academy. And this is a recording that I discovered back in the oldie days. This is from 2023 with my friend and colleague Purva Garg. We've worked with each other several times. She is a very experienced senior producer. She started off project manager and art producer and art manager, but she's done all sorts of things since then. This is back in 2023, like I said. And we talk here about the difference between art production for mobile versus PC console. So I hope you enjoy it. There's a new recording coming from Purva that we did a few months ago, and that'll be here soon. This one's not been around for a long time because when we recorded it, we realized the audio was terrible. But that was in the oldie days before you could do a lot about it. So now it sounds pretty good, and I hope it looks and sounds interesting and good and you enjoy it.
Okay. So what is art production like in mobile games versus console games?
Mhm.
The biggest difference I would say is the volume of output.
Yeah.
That's one difference. The second difference is the pace of output and complexity of assets, which like the pace of output is defined by the complexity of assets, right?
Mhm.
So
I was going to say speed.
the speed at which you produce that output.
The speed that it's required, right? Because in PC console, you're quite used to taking quite a long time to get something out there. Whereas in mobile, you're prototyping live constantly, right? So I imagine on you guys in art production, that puts a lot of pressure on you.
In my experience, the artists in console PC world produce assets way faster in mobile world.
Yeah, in mobile.
I mean, in mobile they're not as fast as as they should be, even
Mhm.
though their assets are simpler and less complex.
But you would expect them to be faster because things are generally simpler, right?
Well, so this was a big pain point for me in my last company. I mean, obviously not naming anyone, and it was a pain point for my boss as well, who also comes from console gaming experience, right? And we both used to talk about why are artists so slow here? The assets are so simple. We've seen like AAA artists produce a next gen ZBrush brush character in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And the mobile game artist would produce a simple, like let's say a match 3 game, a simple token, which is a tiny little thing on the board on a mobile screen, and they take 2 weeks for it. It's like, why is it like that?
Oh,
Yeah, honestly. And this was the biggest mind boggler was like, why? I think the main difference comes here from the kind of exposure both types of artists have and the kind of experience and caliber both sets of artists have. There's a lot of difference. So I would say it's sometimes unfair to compare mobile and console because it comes from a very different mindset. It comes from a very different skill set. And yes, there are certain factors which make things faster in mobile development, but there are certain factors which make things slower. And no matter how hard you try, because of the way, like at least this was my experience in the last place, because of the way the structure is set up, the leads are saying, oh, it will take 2 weeks. So you can't you can push them to reduce it, but you can't say, no, you're wrong. I know this will take 2 days.
it'd take like 30 minutes in some case, like a 2D sprite. Okay, I can do that.
Yeah. So there are differences, but I think instead of going into those details, because then that will become very, very specific to companies and all that. It's generally yes. The volume of output is the difference. The complexity of assets is different, and the speed at which work is required is different. Now, mobile games, by their very nature, like all mobile games pretty much are live games. There are very few, I think, games which are not live games. And because they are live games and most of their model is free to play, they have to keep generating content. So, for a traditional console PC game, you make the game, you test it, you ship it, you're done with it. You might release a DLC patch later or whatever, but then that's also a contained project. But in case of mobile games, it cannot be a contained project for a simple reason. Is you do want the game to last long because that's how you make your money. LiveOps is where the real money is, right? So that's that.
Some questions around that.
Yeah,
More
exactly.
for, yeah. So that's interesting. When you said about the self-contained projects, I hadn't really put it in those. I hadn't put that in my head like that before. But that's a very good point. But because so when you're looking at mobile, you're looking at getting a game out as quickly as you can, aren't you?
as a prototype, and you're looking at, I mean, it's true agile in that it's you want to get something out in front of the customer, iterate upon it, and you have product management there, hopefully, in most companies with mobile. Although product management means something different than pure product management in mobile gaming, but a product manager tends to be there to look at KPIs and say, change this, change that, and respond quickly. And we've got a security leak here, or we've got to tweak this bit of the economy because we've messed it up, or there's a feature here that's doing really well. Let's look at why. And you, as the producer, need to respond to that product manager, if that's the way that it's set up, as quickly as possible, right? Because that's pure like churn of players and well, and possibly a lot of wasted money if you're not doing it right. So if we look at art production, just purely art production, what's the sense of like having to do these sort of rapid turnarounds? How does that affect you as an art team?
It does. It does affect you. So mobile games, as you've mentioned, like not in the same words, but you've mentioned it's like market driven. Like a game has gone out, even at a prototype stage. It's a whole set of data collected, and that data is going to impact the game to improve it.
Yeah.
And that's the point of it. Games are a very visual medium, right? And a lot of people get into the games based on the visuals of the game. Oh, how
Yeah.
do I like this art style? Do I like that character? Do I like the color palette? Do I like the details in the game or the overall genre,
Yeah.
that they're presented? So art is at the center of it from the first glance point of view. This is not from the, I've seen the game, I played the game, I've not enjoyed it or enjoyed it. It's from the, I just saw some advertisement. This looks cool. Let's go and have a look at it. So yes, it's very important. There are times where the core mechanics, the way they play in the game and the way they show in the game, for instance, since we're talking to about mobile games, I'm going to stick with another example from a match 3 game where, okay, we have this color bomb. That color bomb, everybody knows how that color bomb will react when used in the game. What's the mechanic? The way that color bomb will animate, the way that color bomb will explode, and the way that color bomb will actually generate the reaction out of it might have to be changed completely because what done doesn't catch the user's eyes. What we have done has issues when it comes to, say, certain visibilities. Even though we've considered a whole bunch of things, what we tend to do is try and launch a few variations, maybe slight tweaks here and there, and then see which one is doing better and then tweak it further. What makes it even more complex in mobile games is marketing might be creating content which might not look like the game at all. You've seen it in a lot of things out there where, marketing generating, but like Homescapes, classic example, a lot of the marketing content doesn't look like the game at all.
Yeah.
Just simplified. It doesn't look like the game at all.
Yeah.
But that resonates with the players. That's selling, right?
Yep.
If that's selling, that means that is going to impact the game itself because we can keep it aside for as long as we like, but at certain point you'll have to make it part of the game because if you don't, then you're just like, you're trying to sell me something else, but I don't see it in the game. I don't like your game. I'll leave. So like in case of Homescapes, what they did after all their marketing campaigns of the house on fire or Austin meeting comfort breaks and all that, and his toilet is like going totally brush, is in shambles or whatever. So they had to actually include many games which were in that particular life and in that particular art style in order to get the users that feel that yes, what you've seen in the marketing campaign is real, is for real.
Yeah.
Right. But then even before they did that, those marketing campaigns generated a lot of users for the player because in mobile games, it's all about the number of players.
Yeah.
And way mobile games, free-to-play mobile games make their money is how much they're spending. So it's cost ECPI. It's basically, there's a term called ECPI, earning CPI, cost per
Individual? Well, I'm more used to LTV, right? Lifetime value, and also the cost of acquisition.
LTV is basically how long we are able to retain a player in the game. So ECPI in mobile games. Yes. effective cost per install.
Oh, okay.
Cost per
Okay.
install, it's effective. Mobile games, every install generates revenue or costs us.
Mhm.
So depending on the difference between what it cost us to what it generated, that's basically an earnings, right? And the thing is that, I mean, I'm getting into lots of different
That's
things.
okay. I'll edit.
Yeah, they're not very focused. But the thing is that in a mobile game, once a game is made available to even a smallest section of players, user base, whatever, every install counts. Every install counts in terms of money you are spending for every install versus the money you're making for that every install. Now, spending is marketing, how much money you've spent in user acquisition. Because if it's not an organic user, where I saw the ad on internet or somebody referred it to me and I installed the game, the company or the game publisher didn't have to make any effort to draw my attention to get me into the game. That's an organic user. If anybody had to make any effort to get me into the game, which had cost us, even if it's just 1 cent, that's not user. That's our paid user. And companies making homescapes and Playrix and what do you say, Supercell and all have huge economy because they have so much money. They can earn as much money as they want to acquire the user. So they've made a huge user base who are now addicted to the game. For any other games, they don't have that kind of money to acquire the users. They are struggling with all the organic users. And organic users in most cases are not quality users. Because when they were just random users, they saw the game, they got into the game, whether they like it, they'll keep it. If they don't like it, they'll not keep it. But user acquisition basically targets a certain class of users, which is based on market research. So you will see that, okay, this kind of user or this particular type of user is playing this kind of game. So let's target them. Let's funnel them to our game as well.
Just pause for a second there, because I think it's interesting to look at what that means particularly if you're a more senior producer, because in mobile, as you're saying about user acquisition, an enormous skewed portion of budget goes on marketing. But I mean, user acquisition is basically marketing, right? How are you going to acquire that user, which is where lifetime value comes in and where cost per install comes in. How much are you willing to spend? If you're going to bring in $10 over the lifetime of a user, how much are you willing to spend? $8? You're not going to be willing to spend 11. And it's that makes it, I think, is a really interesting difference between the PC console type game market and mobile, because mobile deals with millions, whereas other games don't. Even if you're really popular on, say, Steam and you're an indie company and you might be lucky to get 100,000 installs, that's nothing compared to the billions available. Billions on mobile.
The simplest factor which results in this difference is everybody has a mobile. Everybody has a device in their pocket. Whether they want to play games on it or not, they will always have a mobile. It breaks the age barrier, right? If I talk about, I come from India where games are like they're for kids, right? He plays games. Once you grow up, you get busy, your life gets on, and you just don't have time to play games. But people like my mom likes to play simple casual games like bubble shooters or match 3 games, which is relaxing and it gives them a bit of fun. And if they have like 10-15 minutes and they just want to chill for a while, that's what they will do. They'll just quickly play a game of bubble shooter without having to use their brain and without being penalized or feeling the pressure of competing against somebody else for winning or losing. You're competing against a bot and they don't mind against that bot as many times as they like. So then I think the reach of the mobile game is because of this nature of the device. Everybody has mobile. So that's why the billions come in.
But let's pull it back to production. And whether it's art production or general production, I think the most senior producer has to be aware of that, because when they're working with a product manager who's telling them, I need this tweaked because it will make a 1% difference. If you come from PC console world, you'll be like, well, so what? But if you come from mobile world where you're like, whoa, 1%, that's a 1% swing. And when you've got 850 million downloads, that's a big difference, right? That's where you have to go, holy shit, I better respond quickly then. So how do you as a producer respond quickly? How do you do that in mobile? What's your experience of that?
Well, respond quickly again. I think this is where the similarity between console, PC, and mobile comes in. where everything will have to be prioritized because everything is urgent, everything is
It's a
needed.
good
There's
answer, by the way.
so many people available to do the work, right? There could be factors at play which are not in our control. For instance, the artist goes on holiday. And the other thing that you have to consider in mobile games, the teams are very small. You'll have 3 to 4 artists, unless you're Playrix and you can have hundreds of artists. That's different. But you'll have a smaller team and there's no generalization in that team. You'll have one specialist in each area. So there's one animator, there's one illustrator, there's one 3D artist, and then let's say there's one lead who is the one who can handle everything. His jack of all trades. So those factors come in play. So yeah, you have to still prioritize, and it's just the data. So product manager is not the only say, at least not been in my experience. There are lots of factors at play. There will be like a dev team, whether it's mobile or console, is always running on a certain cadence and always has some plans in place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we launched something, let's say today. Then that was to be A/B tested. We rolled out that A/B test. The test itself will take about 4 weeks. And then after 4 weeks, the product manager and analyst team will take about 2 weeks to gather all the data and come up with their conclusions and everything. So after that, it's about 4 to 6 weeks period before the team, all the stakeholders and everybody know what happened after we release that update, right? So the team has to be aware, like as a producer, I have to be aware that in 6 weeks' time, we expect the results of this particular test to come out. And whatever the result is, tweaks will have to be made. So we at that time can account for that particular things like, okay, let's block some time for this particular thing. If whatever is needed, right? We need to account for it. But at that point, we don't know if art needs to be tweaked.
Yep.
So that's where prioritization will come into play. Like, okay, now art need to be tweaked. This particular artist is working on something. Is this more important or the new requirement is more important? We'll make adjustments. However, we will not make adjustment in between a sprint. We will not change the release goals because if we start doing that, and we've experienced this causes a lot of stress for everybody. So you have to try and be very, very sensible about what changes you're making. If release goals have to be changed, don't change your sprint goals. Finish what you're doing and then start the next thing in the next sprint so that, you're not derailing the team. Because one big thing that we used to talk in my previous company was cost of distraction. And this is very common in mobile games because of the pace and because of the data, which affects how you work. They were constant like, oh, we need assets to be delivered by a certain date, and then data will come in, and then the requirement itself will change, and then you have to deliver really quickly. So I think as a producer, our job is to ensure that, yes, we need something, but that has to be planned, that has to be plugged into a schedule. People have to know that they have to deliver this and take it from there.
Can I just ask though, I'd love to know more about cost of distraction.
Yeah.
Can you go into more detail on what that was at the company?
So cost of distraction, basically, I'm a member of Project Management Institute and I attend a lot of their webinars. They have annual expos. They have an expo in March, they have an expo in June, last year, in fact. In 2021, I attended their June expo, and in that, I attended a seminar from one lady who runs her own leadership community. She specifically brought up this term, cost of distraction. I was like, wow, this resonates with me because this is what we are struggling with all the time.
Yeah.
And we basically started talking about this and said, like, okay, cost of distraction is the biggest problem that we have right now. The team wants to deliver something, they start getting focused, and then suddenly somebody says, no, this is now the biggest burning fire. So the team is distracted. It was like, okay, now I'm supposed to drop this and pick up the things to solve, to fix that big burning fire. Or am I supposed to be focusing on this? But either way, I'm distracted. Because, things have changed significantly. So yeah, it basically hampers productivity. The nutshell is that the more distracted the team is, the less productive they will be. This will also affect morale.
I have some questions around that.
Yeah, and this will also affect more. So cost of distraction is basically affecting productivity and affecting morale of the team, which is just not good in any case.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
all right. Let me ask a question then. So, in my experience of the lovely new phrase I've just learned, cost of distraction, but my experience of that is that I tend to use the word noise and changing priorities, but cost of distraction sums that up nicely. You've got the two tracks of planned work and responsive work, and the responsive work is down to you're live, you're responding to, say, a feature request or a bug that's been found or a security hole or a quick enhancement or some leaking money somewhere, and you have to react quickly. And 6 of those might come up on the same day, right? And so basically you're reacting to information and information gathering. And you mentioned that earlier about it might take 6 weeks for some piece of work to go live and come back with analytics that can basically gives you information about what you all think should happen next. And then there's the second sort of track of work is the planned. In my experience, what happens is that people are constantly gnawing away at your ability to deliver the plan, which is the second one, because of the first one. So the first one being, oh, we've learned something. Now, Agile is supposed to deal with that. And it doesn't in the games industry because we're not set up to deal with it properly. I think that's a great point about the cost of distraction. Now I'm thinking about this because my experience, particularly with mobile and teams in mobile, they can just burn out on this huge burden of how the hell do you prioritize this big list of interruptions? How do I go from committing to work for 2 weeks to a more Kanban view of just multiple chaos coming in and how I prioritize it?
Yeah, but you know what? The producer can definitely earn their marbles if they're given the resources. Every company has different budget. Ideally, there should always be a separate feature team and separate LiveOps team. Those two teams should not deal with each other's priorities. So the feature team can stay focused on a roadmap which is planned, while the LiveOps team is an agile team where new priorities will be planned all the time. Yes, that might affect the feature team, but what will happen is the LiveOps team will take care of the short term, while feature team will see, okay, in the long term, we need this. After we finish this particular sprint or this particular release, the next thing that we pick up is to support you on that LiveOps feature. I've never worked with that big teams. And I'm sure most of the successful mobile games companies have that set up where they have a very dedicated team, because without that, no matter how good of a producer you are, you will end up balancing a lot. You will end up not making everybody happy. Because as a producer, it's not just your responsibility to deliver for the business, it's your responsibility to take care of the team as well. You will end up putting team's well-being first, but you will not be allowed to deliver. To be very honest, you'll be like, no, you have to deliver. That's when the team is like, no, we can't deliver. It's like, we still have to make it happen somehow. I think that's like you're always between rock and a hard place. And you're just, you have to. I think the biggest win a producer can get in mobiles game, fast-paced environment is keep the team as focused as possible. Just make it very, very like earn team's trust to ensure that team is not getting distracted and is not picking up anything which has not come from the producer, because they know that the producer is aware of the priorities and it's the producer who's owning that particular priority. So if anybody is changing those priorities, then producer is accountable and responsible for telling everyone that, no, this is what's planned. You will get that thing next. I think this is the biggest win most producers would get. At least that was the biggest win for me when I was working in mobiles. But it's not easy. It's easier said than done that you can balance the two. It's very difficult to balance the two with just one team.
Do you, in your experience, when you were working, because what was it? It was EA Mobile, wasn't it, before Outplay?
Yeah.
So in your experience, were you always partnered up with a product manager who could say, I need this, I need that? Or did the priorities come from different places?
So when I was working at EA Mobile, I was an art content manager, and I was only working for marketing content time. I was not part of the games team.
Right.
So that was my first role as in management, and they did not have somebody managing art content for marketing because they had 5, 6 games going on at the same time and nobody knew how to own the schedule. And in fact, we had just one marketing artist when I joined at that time. So my main role at that time was to build up a marketing team and start managing requests from all the games. So that was led by 2 people, product manager and community managers. So EA being EA, they had a community manager. A community manager was planning a lot of posts around various events, in-game events, real-world events. So that's what I was handling. Yeah. I worked with the producers, but not as closely because the producers were working with product managers and community managers were working.
Okay. More outplay that became a thing.
Yes. Because at Outplay, I was a producer. That's where I was working with everybody directly. So as a producer, my responsibility was to act as a bridge between the game team and everybody else. So marketing, analytics, product management, and all of them will come up with okay, these are the things that we want, and everybody will be saying that. And then it's on me along with the leads and the exec producer. But we had a shared exec producer who was exec producer for multiple titles, and we will agree on priorities and we'll take it from there.
How did you agree on priorities? Was it an economic model, or was it, did you work out financially things like cost of delay not financially cost of delay, but did you work out things like which of these is going to render the quickest benefit, or which of these is going to cost us the most if we don't do it, or anything like that? Or was it more intuitive?
It was very intuitive. I'm sure big companies with bigger budgets do that. I'm not betting on it. I'm not betting on anything. I'm just imagining. But the fact is that no, a lot of that was intuitive. Yes, it was database. So I'll give you a specific example that will help, where we made a change to our plans.
That'd be great.
Loading times. Now, in a mobile game, loading time is very important. Very important. A lot of users are lost in that loading. If you do not load your game properly, even on the crappiest device out there, you've lost your player, right? Well, when I say crappiest device, that's another big beast that makes things very difficult. First there could be a granny playing on some sort of iPhone 3 or 4, whatever, and she's trying to load the game and it's like, oh, my game doesn't load, and then she drops the game, right? So loading time was one of the biggest thing which pretty much we dealt with throughout the course of the project. After the initial, let's say, 1 year of prototyping and starting to get into the pre-production stage, for the remaining 2 years, we dealt with loading times consistently. There were multiple reasons for it. At least we did not have all the devices that we needed to measure loading times. Then the way the game was set up initially was not loading the game properly. The whole infrastructure behind loading was different. And every time a piece of code changes hands, the brain changes. So the way things work will also change, which is natural, not just code for any department, it's natural. So that's how things were because there was changes in the whole engineering team and the new engineers came on board and the way we wanted to do things changed. And direction changed a whole bunch of time in terms of leadership, who's at place, who are leading charge of making this change and bringing in their experience change. We always consistently had a performance improvement track for over 1.5 years, which pretty much took most of the time of one of our senior engineers, because that was such a critical thing. And even after so long and after so much time spent, we were not able to improve the loading time to the level that we wanted, because we were constantly pushing in more content into the game. Because the game was laughing, we kept adding more content. We kept building more features on top of the features.
Yeah, it's the classic tech debt struggle, isn't it? Like what proportion of engineers and others' time are you going to put into tech investment versus features and all the instant stuff that the more instant people want?
Yeah. And the biggest hue and cry in the team was we're told that we will improve the game. We're told that we will improve that every time a new feature comes in and the feature becomes priority, because content is the boss. Like it or not, content is the boss.
Content is king, baby.
Yeah, exactly. If there's no content, nobody wants your game. So with the same team, that's where the frustrations crop in. That's where it's very important for everybody to understand out there that we really need, if we want a healthy work environment where everybody's satisfied and content with what they're doing, it's very important to invest in resources and get more people to do specific focused jobs. Because by trying to manage everything with a smaller team, what we end up doing is we end up building that tech debt one after the other, and we end up causing a lot of frustration.
This was recorded a few years ago, and we ended very suddenly. I can't remember why, but I hope you enjoyed that. I did. And there'll be more coming from Purva, because we did another recording more recently. I'll have that one ready soon. So, thank you very much. Please like, subscribe, come to game-production.com and sign up and join the Discord and all that sort of thing, and come and join the newsletter, and there's lots going on. Thank you.